You've got writing partners that you work with. Do I have there? How many people are involved with you directly in producing a book like Honest June?
So with June, I was really, really lucky to bring on my collaborator from the Zee Files. And so we were able to do that together. So in total, we have now collaborated on 9 books. And then with my new series, she was tapped out. And so I found an amazing new writer. A lot of times I do work with first-time middle grade writers. I like bringing that freshness of perspective and writing style to the space. And even with that, I still have a lot on my plate when it comes to writing and editing. And, I thought, oh, it's so easy to do a book. It's the hardest thing I think you'll ever do because you're never done. And there's so many different passes. And once you get through the writing, there are art approvals and there's so many layers to the process. And so I think I really look for, collaborators who have a unique position, whether it comes to style. The Stitch Click, the newest project, needed someone who could write a really fast-paced style. And so I knew I had to find someone who had written for magazines for that project. And specifically, I was hoping to find someone who had written for magazines with younger readers. And I found someone fantastic. And so then we start to talk about what works for tween, right? And that's where I love to bring that out of like, okay, these are the rules as I've defined them of how we're going to write for tweens. But it's a really fun, really collaborative process. Lots of Google Docs, lots of me writing, are we sure tweens say this? Are we sure tweens sound like this? I think I'm always programmed to say, how do I not sound like I'm a 40-year-old writing for tweens? Like there's a lot of self-editing.
How do you do that?
It's a really collaborative process.
Gotcha. Do you have like beta readers or tweens that you bring in to give you feedback on that? Or?
It's funny. I posted to Instagram a couple of weeks ago. I had to ask my niece a question. I was doing another read through. I forget which series. I guess I'm working in 3 different series right now. But I asked her something about dating and like, would this really happen on WhatsApp? And she wrote me this really cheeky, really funny response where she's like, ma'am, are you seriously asking me this? But I often go to Phoebe and say, can you just like tell me, is this right? And she'll definitely let me know. But it's always a really funny exchange where I'm like, am I like, is this accurate? And she's like, oh my gosh, Aunt Tina, you're so embarrassing. Yeah. Or else she'll just say, you're just so embarrassing. Like I'll get that feedback.
Yeah, but it's not like a regular aunt coming in to ask you about your life. You've got purpose. This is going to help other readers out there.
Yeah, but like,
she has.
She'll even say, oh, I saw someone with your book at school. So embarrassing. And I'm like, some people would actually think that that's cool. But she's like, it's so embarrassing.
5-10 years from now, she's going to be on a podcast talking about what an inspiration you were and how amazing the experience that was.
Right now, I'm just embarrassing. And she told me, she was like, the real issue is if I don't like your book, how am I going to be able to tell you that? And I'm like, you can't tell me exactly how you feel about everything, but it's just hilarious. She'll say, oh, saw someone reading your book, as if it's the worst thing ever.
So, and I'm watching our time because I know we don't have much of it. And I want to make sure I get all the good information I can possibly bring forth. You go back and forth with your writing partners, and then you've got editors that get involved. I assume some folks at Penguin have some things to say. Yeah. So, how many passes are you looking at for each book, and how many different people are sounding off and getting involved?
Anywhere from 2 to 4 passes. But I think the big thing for both of my projects and Stitch Click, well, actually all of my projects are, they all have sensitivity readers engaged, right? Because there are sensitive themes and I like to push the envelope about what I want to talk to tweens about, which means we have to bring in a lot of the professionals to make sure. For example, in the Zee Files, I knew when I was going to age her up that one of the things I wanted to explore was Zee, leaning towards a diagnosis of having ADHD. And so I really wanted to go through that process, and also Zee in therapy. She's a California girl who's moved to the Cotswolds. She, is at boarding school in a totally different culture. And it's all about how she's adjusting to that. And so you add in that layer of, am I writing? Am I telling the story the right way? And, some of the notes I'm most proud of and moments in my career is when a sensitivity writer comes back and says, you guys have done a really good, this is really well executed. This is well thought out. And that makes me really happy. We put a lot of time and effort into thinking through, and I do, how I'm going to tell a story, how I'm going to make it resonate for a tween. I think that with tweens, I really want I want them to embrace those parts of their personalities that make them different. I think the idea that we need to conform is what's so unfortunate about that life stage for me, right? We realize now as adults, it's those things that we were made fun of for, or our quirks, that actually become the things that we're known for, right? Or that we do best. And if we had allowed ourselves as tweens to kind of buy into the fact that being different was bad, where would we be now, right? So the idea for me is I always want to bring those things to light to say, well, June might have this issue, but it's okay, if she feels anxious or has anxiety. What's important is that June learns how to work through her anxiety, right? That she gets the tools, that she figures out what she likes, what's causing her to be anxious, which is I'm trying to be perfect for other people and I'm not in my own truth, which is maybe I don't want to go to law school. Maybe I want to be a writer or do these other things. And so that's my goal, I think, with all of the projects, is to say, it's okay to show up as your unique self and to be who you are and to be celebrated for what makes you unique. And in doing that, sometimes we get into really sensitive topics. And so that's what causes, the need to get a lot of other people involved to make sure that at the end of the day, what we're trying to do is what people see and that it's resonating.